Usually when you hear from me and I'm positive and I'm bringing you inspiration and I'm talking about hope and I'm talking about recovery. The name of my company is Holding the Hope. I try really hard to do that. Today I'm going to talk to you about hope and recovery from a different perspective. I want to talk to you about what happens when hope and recovery are not around, when despair and distorted thinking and mental illness are in charge. What happens often is suicide. What we know is that at any one time, 6% of the population is thinking about suicide. In my state, 1 out of 10 high school seniors are going to attempt suicide this year, unless you're gay, and then 3 out of 10 high school gay seniors will attempt suicide this year. For our transgendered nieces and nephews, it's a full-on 50%. What we know is that for every one person who dies by suicide, there's between 80 and 100 who have attempted. My name is Mary Jedwisiak, and I've been teaching and training about suicide prevention for 14 years. I've traveled all over this country. I've taught military personnel, I've taught ministers, I've taught youth, I've taught internationally. And there's a few things that I know that I really want to share with you because, like you, I get scared. I've lost friends to suicide. I've lost family to suicide. We get scared. We think to ourselves, what can I do? How did this happen? Well, there's a lot of reasons why it happens, and there's no easy answer. We're trying to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense. But there are some tips I can give you and some myths I can dispel for you. And I'd like to do that. And now I can't give you a full-on suicide prevention training in the 6 minutes that I have to do this video. But I can give you some really good information that'll help you feel stronger, that'll help you feel more in control of what's going on in your world, in your family's world, in your workplace, in your classroom. First of all, people think that suicide and youth depression is really rare and that it happens over there. That's not true. Many people, as I said earlier in the data, are thinking about suicide, and we know that those numbers are low. We know that youth suicide and youth depression is common. And we know that 97% of the young people who die by suicide often have an underlying addiction or an underlying mental health condition that they've either been getting treatment for or they should have been getting treatment for. So we know that suicide is not rare. And it also doesn't happen to just those other people over there. It happens everywhere. It happens in our community. It happens in our churches. It happens to the people who attend our workplace. It happens to rich people. It happens to poor people. It happens to white people. It happens to brown people and black people. It happens everywhere. So it's not rare. But our next myth is that we think that somehow if we talk about suicide, we're going to even make it worse. That talking about suicide is somehow risky. And what I want to tell you is that not talking about suicide increases risk for young people. What I want to tell you is that talking about suicide openly is what helps save lives. What we know is that people who are thinking about suicide are waiting for us to talk to them about suicide. They're waiting for us to ask. They're waiting for us to help because they've come to a place of hopelessness and despair. So they need us. They need us to ask directly, are you so sad you're thinking about suicide? They need us to know, what is it? How do I know when to ask? So, I'll give you a tip. Facts. Feelings, actions, changes, threats, situations. If a person is feeling hopeless, and this is new, if a person is feeling depressed, withdrawn, that's something new. We might want to take a look at that. In their actions, are they giving away their possessions? Are they withdrawing? Are they not doing the things that they typically do? Are they drinking more? Are they more sexually active than typical? Are there changes in their eating patterns or their sleeping patterns? Those are the actions. Feelings, actions, changes. Changes in sleeping patterns, changes in sexual behavior, changes in drug and alcohol use, changes in school performance. Things that are different, and you're just kind of looking at it going, what's going on here? And then threats. People will say something like, you'd all be better off without me, or I wish I were dead, or I should just kill myself. When someone says that, we need to take that very seriously. So feelings, actions, changes, threats, and situations. Has there been some kind of a change or some kind of a situational change that, like a job loss or a test loss or something that may feel to a young person like their entire future has been diminished? When we have those things, when you're looking at somebody and you're doing that little checkwork, feelings, actions, changes, threats, situations, then we need to ask directly about suicide. Asking directly about suicide is not going to plant the seed. Giving a person an opportunity to talk about how they're feeling is going to save their life. You don't have to solve all their problems. You don't have to fix everything that has brought them to this place where they are right now. You just have to find out, are you thinking about suicide? Are you so sad that suicide is an option for you? Does your future seem so hopeless that maybe suicide is the only thing you can think of? It's important that we ask that question. It's important that we ask it in what I call the no-dodge way, right? It's in the present tense. Right now, are you thinking of suicide? It's a yes or no question. Can't dodge it. And we use the word suicide. We use the word kill yourself. We use the word die. Because the only way to know if that's what's going on is to ask directly, are you thinking of killing yourself? And then we get that person some help. We don't have to fix it ourselves. We cannot keep it a secret. We have to connect them with the community. The next myth that I want to talk to you about a little bit is that nothing can be done. That it's just too hard, and I'm not qualified, and I can't ask about suicide. I'm not a therapist. Well, here's what I want to tell you. Everybody has a role in suicide prevention. And it's not hard to ask, well, it is really hard to ask the question, but you can do it. You can do it. The worst that could happen is you ask somebody if they're thinking about suicide and they get really annoyed with you because they're not thinking of suicide. The best that could happen is you ask somebody about suicide and they look at you completely relieved and say, yes, I am thinking of suicide, which is equally as terrifying for those of us on the asking end. But we can stay with that person and we connect them with the help that they need. And we connect them with the people that they need. And that's the piece that fights suicide. That's the piece that fights distorted thinking, that fights despair, that fights addiction. It's connection. It's community. None of us are doing this alone. If you think that you're the only one that can help with youth suicide or with any suicide prevention efforts in your community, we want you to know that we want to help. It takes a community to come together. We all have to have the same trainings and the same energy and the same commitment. And we do. We just don't know what to do often. Everybody wants to help, but nobody knows what to do. We're in this together. We support each other. Everything we do commits. Everything we do connects. And everything we do contributes to a better community, a suicide-safer community. So you're thinking to yourself, well, what can I do? I'm just a dentist, or I just run a pizza place, or I'm just a teacher. I'm not a therapist. What can I do? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. First of all, pay attention to the people around you and ask directly about suicide. That's the first thing you can do. The second thing you can do is you can educate yourself on what resources are available in your community. And I want to tell you about a couple that I have on my website, which is holdingthehope.com. And I want you to know that these resources are completely free. Excuse me. Sorry. So, watch for signs. Stop youth suicide. A Parent's Guide to Recognizing and Treating Depression in Your Child. These are just two of the resources that are on my website, holdingthehope.com. Are you a pastor and you want to officiate at a young person's funeral who died by suicide? You can go, there are toolkits for pastors on how to officiate. There are toolkits for schools on what to do after a suicide. Another fantastic resource is sprc.org, Suicide Prevention Resource Center, sprc.org. Go there, look around, download some stuff, watch some videos. So here's what you need to know. I live in Southwest Washington. I will go anywhere and talk about suicide prevention for free. If you are not fortunate enough to live here in this beautiful Southwest Washington area, that's all right. If you invite me to your community for any other reason, if you purchase any other of my workshops or keynotes or consultation, any of it, when we come to your town, my team and I, we will put on a free suicide prevention training. If you don't want to purchase any of my stuff, that's all right too. And you don't live in Southwest Washington, I know people who live where you live that would make the same offer to you in a heartbeat. Because suicide prevention is a community of the most caring, amazing people that I've ever met. And all they want to do is teach you how to help the people in your community to stay alive. We can't get well if we don't stay alive long enough to learn those skills. So, to recap, it's not rare. Talking about it is not going to cause it. There are lots of things you can do. I'm Mary Jedwisiak. The name of my company is Holding the Hope. Please contact me if there's anything I can do to help. Thank you.